Good evening, friends. This is a very special day, I think, for Rohit. Uh, he has finished his dream of 10 years of photographing 62 of the topmost artists in India. But not just photographing, he shot them in their studios. And that gives it a completely different look because they're not like just shots of the artist. They're being seen where they belong, where they worked, where their creativity was at its complete fullest. And the naturalness of the artist itself has come through beautifully in the book. It is a book that KNMA is very proud that we have been uh, taken together with Rohit to in the bringing out of this book. So please enjoy it and give it your time and see our artist at his best.
To the formal launch of Portrait of an Artist. I begin this session as I began the previous one that I did today with the caveat. I am not associated with DAG. I work as an independent art writer and curator. It was always a dream for me, Bipin, to do a book with Mapin. So thank you for this opportunity and thank you, Rohit. This really fell into my lap. Yeah, all right, I'll give you a mic.
Hello. Yeah.
So it truly has been
We'll have to take
one of the most, why don't you take this? Amazing kind of projects that one has worked on, because here you have a book where both the photographer and the writer are interlopers walking into the space that is specially guarded, provided for an artist. Artist studios are very special places. They're places of great vulnerability. They're places where their identities are born, created, nurtured, and then shared in the public over a process of completion and execution of projects. Artists usually do not allow visitors into their very sacred spaces. So the opportunity offered by these 60 plus artists, when Rohit, over a period of years, has come in and photographed them in their purest, rawest spaces, manners, and captured their spirit in the zeitgeist, as it were. I don't think that opportunity has ever been offered before to any other photographer. Rohit, what was that experience like?
Well, I'm always about trying to catching the unguarded moment, a moment bereft of artifice. And, I hate choreography of any kind. So the fact that I could walk into these artist studios and shoot them without too much of ceremony, see them for what they really are in their private spaces, it's like, I like trespassing into people's lives. So being able to trespass into the lives of the artists that I really like and love was a wonderful experience. And I'm acutely aware of the fact that sometimes they say that if you really like somebody, you shouldn't go and meet them, because sometimes the journey when you meet the person you idolize is also downhill. But surprisingly, in this case, most of our meetings turned out to be fruitful and nice. There were some exceptions, of course, but by and large, getting a sense for yourself of the artist, his mind, it's like a psychoanalyst with a camera going into a studio and trying to figure them out in a way that I could make sense of. So that was my real high while I was doing it.
So what's that relationship like when you build towards a conversation? It's a visual conversation that you're having. You're not quite a fly on the wall, though I'm sure you wish you were a fly on the wall. What was that experience like? Do artists, do you have to break down a wall? How do you cut through that kind of diffidence that they might be.
So look, sitting next to me is Ravinder Reddy. I specially flew into Vizag just to photograph him. So early morning, I landed at the airport and Ravinder said, come straight to my studio. So before we were going to do the portraits, we sat, had a cup of tea. His studio is magnificent. And you know, the thing is, for me to walk into a sculptural studio is also, it's like a sight to behold because it's not just the work which is ready, what is lying on the floor, how he creates, the people that are working around him. And you know, we had an easy chemistry. It didn't take too long. But having said that, I had met him about 20 years ago in the south of France, in Saint-Tropez, where there was a show called Made by Indians, which Enrico Navarro was doing. So we've all come a long way since then, and Indian art has really come a long way since then. But I think I want Ravinder to tell us about how he felt being photographed.
Because of Rohit, I said, okay, Rohit is coming. I am willing to get photographed because he knows how to get along well with the artist's temperament, and he becomes part of the situation. So he blends well with the artist and the studio environment. Then that is very safe for an artist to be more at ease. And I allowed him to wander around, look around, and touch, see, and think. So that's how we built up a close relationship kind of thing, and that's how he could photograph me at my intimate spaces.
And I have a story to tell about Ravinder Reddy, which is like about 20 years ago when I was doing some work for India Today. Somebody sent me a head at home, and you know that head after the shoot kept lying in the house for maybe 2 months, and then somebody said, Rohit, if you want to keep the head, it's 30,000 rupees, and 30,000 was a lot of money then. So I stupidly sent that Ravinder Reddy head back home. And let me tell you, that head would be worth about 4-5 crores today. So that's one of my biggest regrets, that I can't actually afford a Ravinder Reddy head in my house. And you know, his work is beautiful. His work is lovely. And you know, I'm old school. I still believe in worshipping at the altar of beauty. You know, and I mean, it's fashionable to talk about activism in art. Yes, there is activism in art. It needs to be there. But everything needs to be in the realm of beauty. It needs to be poetic. I'm dead against curatorial notes which need to describe a piece of work when the work can't stand on its two legs. So when you see a work by Ravinder Reddy, it's beautiful. You want it in your house. You want it to be part of your home, your life. So that's the kind of art I like. And thank you, Ravinder, for letting me into your house.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, it is not about the commerce or anything. I've been trying to create a work of art which can communicate with every person, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their country, or irrespective of their religion. So that gives me satisfaction. The rest doesn't matter.
No, Rohit, I do want to say over here, he may not appreciate the commerce part of it. You and I may kind of lament it, the loss of, the opportunity somewhere. But the opportunity is there in the book. We've got the photographs. I mean, there you have your Ravinder Reddy. You've got it at home in your bookshelf. What better?
So I was very lucky that NDTV decided to do a calendar. So you will see Ravinder in his studio in all his glory. And you know, all of us are used to going to museums and trying to understand an artist. But if you really ask me, walking into an artist studio is the most intimate way of getting to know the artist. It's like, you know, when I used to work in advertising at J. Walter Thompson, one of the things I used to do when I used to hire people to work in the creative departments, I used to say, मैं तुम्हारे घर आना चाहता हूँ, तुम मुझे एक कप चाय पिलाओगे? Because I believe in that Piyush Pandey saying, क्योंकि हर घर कहता है कि इसमें कौन रहता है, और हर आर्टिस्ट का स्टूडियो कहता है कि इसमें कौन क्या बनाता है. So when you see his studio, it's poetry in motion, it's poetry all around you. I did about 10 images in his studio of things lying on the ground, and they were like pure art to me.
Okay. The thing that I do want to ask you, Rohit, is, you talk about being intimidated about when walking into an artist studio. But Equally, artists feel intimidated when a photographer says, I want to come in and do pictures, etc., because they expect this vast paraphernalia to come in, this vast,
Yeah, he will interpret
lights
one
and
way.
umbrellas and assistants and people. And several people, when I was helping set up some meetings, etc., said, we don't want any of that. You work very minimally, very fast, and in a manner that captures that moment, pretty much like Henri Cartier-Bresson, in a sense, but without the vast paraphernalia that today's photographers work with. How do you do that?
Well,
I take 1 minute liberty. The interesting thing about Rohit is that he doesn't show he's a photographer. He doesn't carry camera which is visible. He doesn't carry lights. He doesn't have assistants. He just walks in and blends with the artist. And that's where he could capture the memorable images.
Well, whatever he said is true, but I'm a lazy photographer also. All right. So, and he talked about Cartier-Bresson. No, we were lucky that I met Cartier-Bresson in Arles in 1990. He saw my wife wearing a sari, and he came to do a namaste. But this whole, I was lucky enough, I worked with Avedon too. So to my belief, most great photographers, I'm not saying I'm one, but most great photographers manage with very little. And we as Indians are very good at managing with almost nothing. So it's part of a survival instinct also that, I like to do the quiet portrait. That's part of my practice. I try to dispense with everything. This preoccupation with technique actually takes away the poetry and the grammar of photography. So I'd like to be bereft of technique in everything that I do. And luckily, today we live in a digital world, so you can take any picture and make it look great. So I'm lucky that I'm part of the digital revolution.
Wonderful. Walking into studios and traveling across the country, seeing artists, practicing in different mediums, creating art, whether painting or drawings or sculpture, or even working in new media, etc. You experienced art in so many different ways and became a part of that process as part of the photography. Any surprises there?
No, really, no unpleasant surprises, It's like,
Pleasant surprises?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, as a photographer, you've seen the work of most of these artists, right? Their public persona and their private persona is quite different in some cases. But like in this particular book, one artist that stood out for me was this young man called Venkana in Hyderabad. He's not been talked about much, but to my mind, if all of you over here are listening to this, he's going to be the next Picasso of the art world. And his humility and his dexterity, and to be surprised by an artist's work is something that I love. And I'm partial to humility. The greatest quantity or the quality in any creative master, to my mind, the most important ingredient is humility. When I see that in an artist, I immediately bend over, because in some cases, the meeting with the artist didn't turn out very well either. I'm not going to name them. But so there's some surprises.
So T. Venkana, for example, when I was speaking with him, says that he lives that world of art to such an obsessive level that he doesn't want to spend time going out. He dislikes the very idea of leaving his studio, that even going into the kitchen to fetch a glass of water is taking away time from his art practice. He wants to become his art. He's so obsessed with it. And I think that possibly came through in your photography and certainly in my conversations with them, that when they're creating works, they're passionate human beings at a level that perhaps many of us can't even begin to understand.
No, he's very special. It's so strange you talk about Venkana. Venkana is a man who works in the erotic, right? He does erotic drawings and erotic stuff. He lives in a closely knit family, traditional family in Hyderabad. You go to his house, it's a little away from Hyderabad, and I'm looking at his body of work, and I'm thinking, is your mother watching? Is your father watching? It's almost, Indians have an inbuilt sense of, what should I say, shame when it comes to sharing things about sexuality with the family. So when I started doing his pictures, I said, I've seen a lot of nudity in your studio, so why don't you take off your shirt?
Shirt.
So I actually shot him, and he immediately agreed. I shot him without his shirt. I could have done a lot more, but then my publisher would have not run that photograph. But so we all have preconditioned mindsets about how certain artists are flamboyant, how. So this was a middle class artist in Hyderabad living the most Henry Miller like life in Hyderabad. So,
Wait, the same can be said or is true of Ravinder Reddy as well. His faces are hugely sexual, but the sensual body that he creates, he's also creating it in a public space where lots of people, including family, etc., walk in and out, and nobody questions it. There's no judgment that is being passed on it. I think it's taken as a natural process, a natural part of it. I think we in more urban habitats somehow become more engrossed in this, the whole idea of shame and humiliation, which doesn't exist in their minds somewhere. I want to ask you very quickly, Rohit, as a consultant with NDTV, there's something else that you're working on that is very, very exciting. Can you share that with our audience?
I think my joining NDTV as a creative director is for a single purpose. I believe the art world in India needs to be democratized. It cannot be the hegemony of the 4 or 5 galleries who are running a sort of a caste system in India. I want the artists to come from all parts of the country. He's from Vizag. Venkanna is from Hyderabad. There is not a level playing field. And our effort and Kiran Nadar's effort in this direction is about democratizing Indian art. We're going to be doing India's first big art awards on the 8th of February. And this is a beginning. We might not get it right the first time, but the attempt is to take art to every corner of this country, discover new talent. And, my attempt at NDTV is also about creating programming which is both indigenous artists and artists from all parts of India to come and get a platform. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we can turn out right.
Wonderful. Very quickly, want to share what is in the book. I think what is very exciting is the range of artists who've been covered include someone like Krishan Khanna, the oldest living artist in the country, 100 years going on to 101, and then moving downwards through the moderns to the contemporaries. Perhaps Venkana is the youngest?
Yeah, I
he
think
might well be the youngest, but you've got Subodh, and you've got Bharti, you've got
I got Shilpa Gupta, who I loved meeting. It's a very strange thing. When you go to an artist, most artists tend to talk about themselves. In Shilpa Gupta, I found an artist who wanted to listen. It was so refreshing. She was interested in knowing what I was doing because we both try to practice some sort of a political activist art in whatever we do. And, so there's some pleasant surprises along the way. Some friends you make, some friends you do not make either.
Lose.
And Kishore, you've written the book. So more than anything, you've spoken to 60 of these artists. I want to ask you some of your own personal experiences with these artists.
Well, what was very interesting for me was the fact that I've had the privilege, both as an earlier media person and as an art writer, to actually be in the studios of lots of these people over periods of time. I have seen them paint. I've actually stayed with some of these artists in their studios, spent time with them. So there are very interesting details one has. Of course, one got into conversations with them, also for the purpose of this book, etc. But see, there's someone like Madhvi Parekh, who's actually virtually, not actually, but virtually working out of her kitchen, because that's the way she wants to be. I think those are the elements that humanize artists, that create stories. And those are the discoveries, I think, your photographs and hopefully my text will bring to the
book that you did on Madhvi Parekh is one of my favorite books. Madhvi actually paints right next to her kitchen. It's like the refrigerator is about 2 feet away from her hand and the brush. So it's remarkable to see the kind of the dexterity with which she paints, and your book on Madhvi is special. And,
thank you very much. I know we're running out of time, so I don't know if I have the liberty, but I'm still going to ask if anyone has questions from the audience. I'm happy to take them. I can see a hand going up there.
Thank you for being here in the outskirts in the evening. Now let's listen to what she said.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I'd like to ask you exactly what is the criteria that makes for an artist, because specifically we're talking about artists, and what exactly is it that segregates who we call an artist and who we do not call an artist? Because as far as we know, anybody can be pursuing art. So what exactly segregates an artist from somebody who is pursuing art but not yet called an artist?
Yeah, what she's saying, what really constitutes an artist? What makes an artist from a non-artist? Well, what's the criteria for somebody being called an artist? Kishore, would you like to talk about it?
That's a difficult call to take as a single question. Today, everything is art. Conceptually, a cart in the market that is loaded with fruit designed in a certain manner can also be considered art. It is certainly something that can be considered design. But I think the parameters of artists that we are talking about are artists that have been showing for a period of time, that are represented by galleries, that have a body of work to represent them, that perhaps have books around their work, etc., and exhibitions that have displayed their skills and their journeys over a period of time. At least those were the artists that we were considering.
I'm just going to take a thing to that. For me, craft is a very important aspect of art. Okay? Most things of beauty can be art, but I believe that a certain degree of craft is very important for an artist to exist.
Do you have any advice for those for artists of any kind trying to get by after pursuing it as their career, that is the preferred form of art that they would like to pursue?
I'm sorry we can't understand it, so
okay.
we'll have to let it be.
So, do you have any advice?
Advice for an artist?
Advice for artists? No, I think we'll leave that for another conversation. We'll talk about the book over here. I'd restrict questions to the book.
Yeah.
Rohitji, my question is, can people like you create an artist? I remember you talking in Bombay when you put Kejriwal on the cover of India Today. It raised hackles of people. So can you create an artist also? Obviously, you must have some talent.
Actually, media makes a lot of non-artists into artists. So it's a very tricky question. I don't think I should be too honest. But yes, galleries are expert at creating artists out of non-artists, and also great at making true artists into non-artists. So it's a very loaded question. But I still believe in the purity of art. So I think if you try hard enough and sometimes I also feel good people end up lost in the art world. So it's a very diabolical business also in parts. Maybe that's a nature of the time that we live in.
I think media and photographers can certainly valorize artists, but eventually over a period of time, a true artist's work will stand the test of time. So if that's it,
yeah, that's
Rohit.
it. Thank you for being here, and I hope you get to buy the book whenever it's out. Thank you.
Thank
all.
you very much. Thanks,
Thank
Rohit.
you, Ravinder. Thank you for doing this.
And thanks,
One of the
Bipin.
pleasure was to have him on the stage with us. So thank you.